You were now entering another basically obsession phase with the jump rope.
Another obsession phase. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely an obsession. It was kind of a running joke at the gym because I'd come in with a new jump rope, and a lot of times my friends would inherit the jump rope because
Mm.
if I didn't get any better with it, I would just give it to somebody. Here, you could have it, But I also, you know, I stockpiled a lot of jump ropes, and yeah, and it really was the gymnastics. Initially was the golfers approach. It's got to be the rope. It's got to be the rope. Let me get a different golf club.
Hmm.
Let me get a different jump rope, and then at some point, finally the gymnastics, kind of analysis kicked in. Like, wait a second, there's got to be a secondary issue here. It probably has something to do with the rope, but it also has something to do with what I'm doing with the rope.
Right.
So yeah, let me take a look at that, and yeah, and then you know the whole deal. It was just a matter of realizing, okay, well, I did better when I had something heavier, moving around me, and I had a
Hmm.
heavier rope. I had better feedback, better sensation. I could track it better. But most of those heavier ropes at that time were PVC,
Right.
so they had a stretch factor, a big stretch factor, and the faster you spun it, the more it stretched. The more you slow down, the more it retracted, back into its original shape. So, you had to move your hands all around to try and keep consistency. So, the pretty much the only wire jump ropes around at the time were the speed wire that you were using for speed contests.
Yep.
Um, and so those didn't have the stretch factor, but they had a nice static length, but they were so light they had no
Yeah, you
feedback.
couldn't feel it at all.
Couldn't feel it at all. The only way you could feel any level of resistance was you had to spin it fast and get that centrifugal force to get the feedback. But now it's moving at such a fast pace that your room for error went out the door, right? Like your
Hmm.
timing had to be dead on.
Right.
And so then it was like, oh, okay, well, let me go with cable, but let me go with a heavier cable. And so I took some off the shelf jump rope handles that I liked, that I got from the sporting goods store. I think I got them from Big Five. And let me go to Home Depot and get some thicker cable, and let me try and just capture that cable inside the handle, and that's when the magic started to happen. Once you had
Mm.
a static length that didn't stretch or contract, it allowed your hands to stay isolated in a singular position, and no matter how slow or how fast you went, then you could start finding some consistency,
Hmm.
right? And then we started playing with, well, how long should that rope be? I mean, I had to go cut this cut this cable at Home Depot.
Right.
How long should I cut it? How long should this be to fit my body? And that had everything to do with, well, what should your positioning be, right? Where your hand positioning dictates how long the rope needs to be in order to clear your feet. And how much should the rope clear your feet by? So, it just became this experiment of, like, well, where does it feel right? What's good ergonomics? I mean, in gymnastics, we were very used to adjusting equipment to fit the athlete, right? Like if you have a short gymnast getting ready to do uneven bars, you would have to lower the bars, move them closer together, set their springboard, because usually gymnasts would mount the bars from a springboard. You'd have to pull it closer, or move it apart and move the bars up for a taller gymnast, right? A taller athlete. So it only made sense that, okay, a taller person's going to need a longer jump rope, a shorter person is going to need a shorter jump rope. So how much should the rope clear their feet by, where it doesn't cause too much friction,
Hmm.
yet where does it give you enough room for error? How much tolerance do you need? So it's just trying to pinpoint that, and that all dictated, well, where should your hands be positioned? You know what I mean? So it was just applying critical analysis to those things, and applying basic physics, basic biomechanics. It's just kind of pulling all those things together and using common sense. Like, it really was not a matter of inventing anything new. It was really a matter of just kind of
Reapplying
pulling it all
information.
together,
Yeah.
reapplying information where it really hadn't been applied before, right? Like where people just really, they were doing things naturally and they might be doing things properly, but they were doing it naturally without rhyme or reason, And so this was like very, very intentional, very purposeful. Like, hey, I'm going to recreate this. That's really
Mm-hmm.
the test. How do you
Systems.
recreate this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, creating a system, creating a template, creating some parameters that you could apply to every individual to get them into the most ideal environment, And that was such a fun process because basically what would happen is I would make up a bunch of jump ropes, and our jump ropes, when you make it with cable wire, we were making them permanently sized. You know what I mean? Like once you make
Yeah,
it,
non-adjustable.
what
Yeah.
non-adjustable. Yep, this is it. Whatever size you got, that's not going to change. So we'd make up, a couple different sizes. And at the time, Joe Craig, you know Joe very well.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably like a brother, one of your brothers. So
Pretty much.
Joe, yeah, Joe was like my workout buddy at the time, and he was becoming a studly athlete in CrossFit, and so but he and I both equally sucked at jump rope. I think I was a little bit farther ahead than he was at the time, but we were pretty close. And so I would bring in two jump ropes, and he's about an inch and a half, almost 2 inches shorter than me. So I'd bring in two different ropes. He'd use one, I'd use one. We'd compare notes. We would swap ropes. I would use the other one. He'd use the other one I was using. We'd try those. We would trade off and share the information, and then we'd let people in the gym try it, and then we'd start writing down their heights, and we'd write down the length of the rope that they were using, and then we'd bring back different sizes next time, and bring back a shorter rope for a shorter person. And then as they started testing out and experimenting with these different sizes, and we started going, oh, okay, well, wow, how coincidental, a shorter person did better, like we're connecting more reps, and we're reporting back that, oh, that one felt way better. And yeah, they were I mean, the proof was evident right then and there. They were connecting more reps, they were having more success, like instantaneously. They could only do 3 double unders before, and all I did was put a different rope in their hands, and then they did 10 in a row, and they're like, holy shit, what just happened? And then you realize, oh, well, we gave you a rope that fit your body better. It cleared your feet better. It wasn't hitting too far out in front of you and having all of that recoil or friction or whatever, interference. It was we started paying attention, like, well, how much is that rope clearing your feet by? Oh, wow, 8 to 10 inches, right around 8 to 10 inches, maybe 12 inches. Okay, and we started paying attention to that. And then everybody that started having more success, we started going down and looking at their toes, and we were videotaping it on a video recorder, and playing it back and going, yeah, okay. As more people were having success, they were, there was a common theme there, how much the rope was clearing their toes by. And and then it was a matter of like, okay, well, we're looking at their hand positioning, and well, a lot of people at the time were pushing wide. Pretty much everybody were pushing
Right.
hands wide,
Like they're almost
and
about to start taking off like a bird, flapping away.
they were flapping away, absolutely flapping away. So then we started realizing, oh wow, they were taking a rope that might be too long for them, but they were making it fit their feet, right? They were making it fit the clearance at the feet by pushing their hands out. And we're like, okay, well, is that good or bad? And then we just used the very, common thought that, well, you're always stronger when your hands are closer to your core, right?
Right. Yeah,
You're
especially from gymnastics.
yeah, in a gymnastics point of view, like if you tell a gymnast, hey, jump up and hold support on the rings. Well, if they hold the rings close to their
Right.
thighs, they can hold support.
Yeah,
If they
iron
start letting
cross is not the default.
exactly, the more you start letting the rings move away from your side, you become less stable, less strong, right? So that then became kind of like the goal, like, okay, well, hey, if your hands are closer to your core, within reason, then that should be ideal. And then we start looking at the mechanics of moving the rope. You're just trying to get this little light rope, and even our ropes, which are heavier by a lot of standards, we're talking 3 to 4 ounces.
Right.
That's 3 times heavier than a speed rope.
Right.
It's still light. That's still really light in the grand scheme of life. That's light, right? That's lighter than your iPhone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so what is it? What's an ideal mechanic? Like, what are the mechanisms of your body that are required just to get that thing moving around you? You know what I mean? So we really got into the weeds of looking at all of those biomechanics and kind of coming up with our own principles. Like